On tonight's Cover One Buffalo podcast, we are joined by News 4 Buffalo's Carl Jones, but first, our guys, Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia Worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, our good friend Bruce Nolan does a funny bit of the 17 different times we tell ourselves football is back. But I will say, besides maybe literally kickoff of week 1, the first day of training camp is about as football's back can get. How did it feel today?
Outside of pads clacking at
yes.
camp. When pads start making the sound throughout St. John Fisher, that's when football is back. But it feels good to get the little taste of it today. I was thinking about this the other day, Greg. I've evolved as a fan throughout the years. I used to get more excited earlier on, but it really is until you start to see the clips of guys coming out of the tunnel at camp that I'm like, okay, now football's back and we can stop filling content time with nothing and actually start talking about things. It might not all matter here week 1 of camp, and we might look too into some of the things week 1 of camp, but they're actual football things. It's not just projections anymore or wish casting things. There's real football news to discuss, and that's good. Football is back.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I'm excited. And again, it was very, I've had a lot of work stuff going on, so it just came very quickly this week. I was like, oh, it was so nice. And we got the run of the red helmet, and then we get the training camps back, all the interviews and everything, and it just filled me with the serotonin I needed to get rolling.
I've been trying to listen to press conferences in between breaking up boy fights in my backyard. A lot of that going on this summer in my house.
Of fist fights in waiting rooms, I heard.
Man, I need a NHL penalty box for these kids, something like that. It's not going well for me.
All right, well, without further ado, tonight's special guest is none other than News 4 Buffalo's own Carl Jones. Carl, how we doing?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm glad that I'm finally able to come on. I feel like it's a long time coming, obviously. I've chopped it up, both of you, Greg and Aaron, for quite some time in the DMs as well as the TL. And I'm just glad to be here and talk ball with y'all.
Oh, welcome. It's you were out there in person today, made the wonderful drive on 90 to get back home as things were going. But how was it today? How was the initial impressions of camp, the excitement, the extra cameras from Hard Knocks? How did everything look?
Yeah, heavy emphasis on the extra cameras. The first press conference when Sean McDermott at 9:15. There's a lot of us on the first day. Of course, the storylines are big. But then you see 20 extra blue shirts just around. Not just cameras, just standing around. And you're like, oh, this Hard Knocks thing is going to be a lot. Not in a negative way, but this is just going to be a presence that we're going to have to deal with for the entire time here at Fisher. But that was a unique experience, as well as just seeing the guys back in action around the fans, which I will never take for granted. I never made it to the National Football League, but in college, our fall camp was very insulated. No fans are around. Reporters only get to see stretching lines. So the fact that fans for free can come see guys practice is so dope and awesome. And then the fact that the players can interact with everyone, really, really good to see. And then for the play as on the field itself, just good to see the guys flying around. It's so hard to have takeaways from day one. Yeah. But there were some players who made some plays that we've seen the clips on social media. So just all in all, I think a very productive play on all fronts.
On the Hard Knocks topic, with all those added cameras, and obviously, I think internally, at least with Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, we've talked about it here when that got announced. They want people to get that inside view of the Bills, but obviously they we know they like to also control the messaging of what the Bills look like coming out. Did you get any sense that anything was different? Because from the outside view, it seemed like everything was normal at camp. The personalities were shining as normal. What was the vibe like with the added cameras there? Was it just business as usual for the Bills?
I couldn't sense a difference once the whistle blew. I think the guys were just out there playing. I did recognize that a bunch of players have mics on their back. So there are a lot more players mic'd up than you think. Like, I'm not going to spoil a lot, but I'll say there are players that you would have no idea why they would have a microphone. They had a microphone mic'd up. So this production is going to be big. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff they leave on the cutting floor that never.
I was going to say, imagine being the editors of all these Hard Knocks and like some of the conversations that probably can't make it to TV that get heard.
There was a lot. And I think after practice, you notice a little bit more with all of, when the players bring their families onto the field, that's when you start to notice the cameras again. But I think during practice, I don't think it'll be much of an issue. It'll be the meeting rooms and all that good jazz that I'm not privy to that may cause a little bit of, hey, we got to be on our P's and Q's a little bit.
Yeah. I love their comments on it that I thought both McDermott and Allen, you could tell they've had plenty of meetings and everybody's kind of been on the same drum beat that, this is almost preparation for that additional distraction or other things around. Can you stay focused when there's those other factors? Can you just focus on what you need to do when there's other things, fighting for your attention? I like that they found a way to make that a thing that, hey, it's not, and don't get me wrong, not as though they're not going to try to, have input on some of the editing and things like that from a competitive standpoint. But overall, just realizing that, hey, they're going to be here, they're going to capture some of this, and that we need to deal with that because this is the kind of attention we want. This is a positive thing. It's because they want to come see what we're doing. And I'll say selfishly, I've been a huge Hard Knocks fan forever. I think I've watched every episode of Hard Knocks. Like I don't know. Maybe I missed one or two here or there.
I think I've missed some of the in-season Hard Knocks stuff.
I take that back. There's some of the newer ones they've done, but traditionally, like the training camp one each year, I love it. I just can never get enough of it. And to now be in a spot where, like, oh my gosh, my team is the one that's going to be on. Like, I can't wait to see the stuff that's there. And the behind-the-scenes stuff, we don't get to see. Some of the personalities we do know about, but some of them that we're going to get to hear and see more of that I think is going to be great and some well-deserved attention.
For sure, especially some of those guys lower on the depth chart where you're like, okay, I've never seen you with a microphone in front of you. That's the conversations that you guys are having on the sideline in the middle of practice when it's 95 degrees outside. That's what y'all really talking about? Yeah. So I think those conversations are going to be the gold nuggets for me.
So sort of in this line of talking about stuff with camp, our sponsor, Southern Tier, our segment is what's brewing for Southern Tier. And one of the topics that came up when we heard about Hard Knocks was also maybe the head-on collision with a James Cook potential holdout, or how would it be a hold in? Would he come in and just be in street clothes? It looks like this isn't even going to be a thing for the Hard Knocks producers. I think they might even be disappointed with how it went today because it seems like a big nothing burger. James Cook just shows up to work and gets to work despite not having any progress on that contract. And even we heard Brandon Beane talk about how he would love to have James Cook be a Bill into the future if it was to work out. So everybody's saying all the right things and doing all the right things. And I love that it doesn't give that type of attention to a show like that and take kind of the attention away from this team. How did that play out for you today?
I don't think I was all too shocked the fact that he showed up and he just did what he's contractually obligated to do, and that's go out there and practice, just based off of the small glimpses that we get to see James Cook as the person. And I know business is business and you have to do it. You have to do your due diligence of separating the two. But once he showed up in my eyes to minicamp, there are reasons why he could have backtracked. And I think those are valid reasons. But in my eyes, once he showed up and did everything at minicamp, I was led to believe that he was just going to come here to training camp. And regardless if he was the most giddy he's ever been in his life or not to show up in practice on July 23rd, I got the sense that he was going to be out there and do it. And kudos for them for getting in front of it and saying, hey, this won't be a storyline. Because I know there are going to be some things that maybe they don't want to be on Hard Knocks. At least this is one of them. They don't have to worry about being on national TV.
Yep. Yeah, it might have been the number one draft pick of the things they didn't want to draw negative attention or to have drama. How about some of the other pieces? I'm sure, a lot of fans and folks in the chat are wondering here now with what's brewing on some of these injuries. So I'll use the positive example where I saw people doing content on who's going to replace Landon Jackson now that he's been put on the physically unable to perform list. I'm like, settle down. He literally got taken off of it before the first day of camp, but now you add in some names that weren't expected: Spencer Brown, Dawson Knox, some guys that are key contributors to what we're going to be doing here. How are you hearing? I've given the response that nothing I've seen so far gives me any indication this is anything other than precautionary. Is that your stance so far until you hear otherwise, or do you think this is something we might need to take a little bit more seriously?
Both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott gave me the vibe of cautiously optimistic, like, hey, we're just getting in front of this. This is July 23rd. If this was October 10th, we may approach this a little differently. But at this point in the year, there's no point in, especially with two veterans who have been there, done that, there's no point in forcing anything. I will add, though, just a little bit more concerned with Spencer's injury because there's past history with that, as well as being a big boy. Big boys and back injuries are just never a good thing.
No matter the same thing,
no matter how you slice it, you can never be like, oh, that's a nothing burger. Just big humans and back injuries, just never a good thing.
We have to think it to some extent will always be there. If it's a flare up after a major injury, that maybe they can mitigate some of it and do this type of stuff, but that this might be a reoccurring thing.
Yeah, him managing that will be part of his career going forward. It's just minimizing and managing.
And I think it's important to note that he got put on the PUP list. If this was a new injury, he would have got put on the non-football injury list, just like Dawson Knox. So I do think this is a flare-up. That's something that he's dealt with for quite some time, and he's just going to have to manage, which a lot of players in the NFL do, by the way, as you guys know. This isn't like, oh, Spencer Brown's the only one that has an injury he has to manage. There are probably 15 other players on the Bills who have something chronic that they just manage day to day.
I'm assuming Deion Walker will hear about it in a couple of years where his back flares up from time to time too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know I was actually pretty impressed with how forthright Joey Bosa was, like pretty vulnerable about the idea of like how frustrating it's been. Like, yeah, I get into camp, I feel pretty good. And then of course this one comes up or that one comes up. And just, a lot of guys don't, they put out that kind of invincible front of like, no, I pushed through and did everything there. I thought it was, pretty cool to hear him be pretty honest about the frustration and things like that and said, yeah, I feel really good right now, like tip top or whatever term he used, that he feels genuinely really, really good. But that it's been frustrating because he's had several years where he felt really good, and then another thing pops up. And he talked about when the calf injury, which obviously it turned out not to be very significant, that he had in the spring, that it was hard not to have that mindset of like, here we go again. I can't believe another thing popped up. I just thought it was very human to hear that of him being honest about how it made him feel and what he had to process.
There were two major takeaways from his press conference to me that really stood out. One, you just hit it right on the head in terms of how open and honest he was, especially because all of his injuries, for the most part, have been soft tissue injuries, which as an athlete, you always feel as if those injuries you can prevent. So when that keeps happening over and over again, it does something to your psyche. You're like, man, I did the foam roller. I did the rolling out. I hydrated, and it keeps happening in these manners. What am I doing wrong? It's much different than like an ACL or Achilles where you feel like there's no preventative measure you can take in that regard. And then also, I do think the way he spun it forward and said, you know what, I am injured, but I'll use this time as an opportunity to get closer with the training staff that I will have to know personally on a day-to-day basis this year, especially that they're going to put him on this rep plan going forward. So it's so cool when you hear athletes that open because they're not that open about injuries too often.
So as we kind of move forward into the core topic of today's show, which is the cornerback room, something you're familiar with and it put time into some awesome work with Eric and Anthony in the film room and some different spots we've been able to talk about it further. I'm going to start at the lower end and we'll finish high with some of the guys who were looking well. I was a little surprised. I know it's hard for people to get their minds around when contracts hit. So this number, I'm asking for a reason because I think people see it as pretty big. I'm going to give a guess for each of you. No matter what combination of guys we pick, well, let's assume that the veterans beat out the younger guys and we even maybe release a draft pick or two. How much money do you think will be spent on the cornerbacks? So say the top 6 guys. I'll let you guess first, Aaron, and then Carl. How much money do you think we'll spend at cornerback in the 6 most expensive guys if we were to keep them?
Oh my God. I have no idea. We're not paying Benford yet, right? He's still his contract extension. So he's still on his rookie.
Where's Taron in this discussion?
included. So nickel included, 6 included. So he is by far the most expensive.
25 million, something like that.
I will say if his cap hit is probably around like 10, I would say like 16 million.
It's spot on in the middle of the two of you.
Okay.
The most expensive is like 19 and change. As a matter of fact, there's no combination where we can hit 20. And if both Hancock and Strong win jobs, which I think we expect, if Cam Lewis doesn't make the roster, it's going to come in at like 18 million total for 6 cornerbacks. So I just think I was a little bit surprised when you go through there, because some of the, up to numbers with Tre'Davious White and Taron Johnson's number and the new extension for Benford and, Maxwell Hairston's a first round pick. I was expecting it to be a little bit more expensive than what it was. I was like, oh, it's actually pretty reasonably priced for what we have here. So I know that I didn't see a ton on Dorian Strong here. I saw that he was getting first team reps as the gunner on punt coverage. I know that was a guy that Aaron's been pretty big on. What have you seen on some of the lower end competition? I know Jordan Hancock, a lot of people thought he'd start out competing at safety. At least his first reps were at nickel corner. I like some of the young depth that they brought in here to push a Dane Jackson, a Cam Lewis, a Jamarcus Ingram.
Yeah, I'm right with you, Aaron. I love Dorian Strong. Liked him during the entire draft process, and just feels very Billsy.
I agree.
Just like a very Sean McDermott-esque type of defensive back. I didn't see a ton of him today, quite frankly, but I watched a ton of him at OTAs and rookie minicamp, and he just was always. This may sound trivial, but he was always talking to somebody, and I think that's important when you're a younger guy to always know that it's not too big for me. The game's not above me. I'm not too proud to ask for help. And I don't know if it was for help or just getting clarity on something. So I think that's really encouraging. And I'm sure he's doing that now in July as well. As well as Jordan Hancock, big Ohio State fan. So I watched his entire career with the Buckeyes. And this past year that he was in this quasi safety role because of Caleb Downs, which I'm sure you guys have talked about ad nauseum on this platform. I liked him in that role, but I can see the nickel possibility as well, because I don't think he has the best of hips, which I do think the Buckeyes tried him at outside a little bit and it didn't go as well. But if you put him in closer to the formation where he doesn't have to do as much twisting and turning, I think those that can accentuate his gifts a little bit.
I was a little shocked, Greg. I did see other people being surprised about him filling in behind at the nickel. I was kind of shocked because when they drafted him, I saw Cam Lewis's replacement smacking me in the face. And I think Cam today was a sign that Cam Lewis's roster spot's totally on notice, because it's kind of that role is the priority of Cam Lewis can do a lot of things. And I think Hancock can do a lot. He can be that utility back. He can play special teams. But the primary thing is being a nickel backup for Taron Johnson, because there's nobody else that really has that type of position flexibility. And so them playing him there made sense to me first. I think you will see as camp goes on him get some reps in other spots like Cam Lewis did, and that they're kind of trying to push that roster spot for Cam, because as much as fans like him and we know the coaching staff likes Cam, he's not some secure roster spot guy here. He has been on and off the practice squad years past. It was just that they had nobody to kind of push that flexible utility defensive back position the last couple of years.
When you add in that, again, I don't even like thinking about a post Taron Johnson world, but he does play a very aggressive, I won't say reckless, but like a very aggressive style where
he takes a toll.
He throws his body around in a style that most 192-pound guys don't. And that when you're constantly firing your gun and you're not worried about hitting Derrick Henry in the thigh pad, we've unfortunately seen that cost him some games, and there's been some challenges there. So to this point, Cam Lewis has had the luxury of, we can use you just as a versatile piece. And now it's, you're competing a guy who might be Taron Johnson's successor. And yes, we hope that's at the end of your rookie deal 4 years from now when Taron Johnson's 33, but we might need to start planning for that. And if we have a guy who can check the boxes you do, versatility, special teams, and might be a succession plan, that might be a tough hurdle for Cam Lewis to clear.
I'll just say this quickly about Taron Johnson. Love watching him play. I say this with all due respect. He's I wouldn't say first team right now, but he's second team all crash dummy. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible. The way he plays football, is just so violent, and to be that small and do that, he's
You
like
got
one of
it.
those. But you have to, though. And I've
Yeah.
talked to him about that in the past and just like why he plays that way. And he said it dates back to college when he had a teammate that was like 150 doing the same thing. But it's really dope to see that because there's a lot of nickels out here. I played nickel in college. I wasn't feeling the B gap. I'll tell you that. Every time the B gap opened up, I waited till he got about 8 yards downfield and jumped on his back. I'm not feeling
strong chase down technique.
I could
strong
go.
Chase down
I'm not going to go off on a tangent on this, but I had Cody Alexander on doing linebackers last week, and I almost wanted to talk about Taron in that conversation too, because the nickel position has become such a hybrid position in the NFL, and it's really guys like Taron, Kenny Moore, or some of these guys that have come into the league.
You've seen teams turn it into. I mean, they're using like Jalen Ramsey. They're using like bigger guy. Hell, they're using Kyle.
Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton, as a nickel. Like they're now turning it into now
it's a move piece.
Yeah, the new safety, the new nickel look is actually a third safety because you bring in the backup safety and you take your best safety down in the box like a linebacker. Like teams are really, it's becoming a huge part of it.
The average fan does not. I think it's one of the most difficult positions in all of the NFL to play outside of like quarterback, obviously with all the reads you have to make, but having a cover run responsibility, you don't have the boundary as an extra defender. You have the entire field. You're dealing with the most athletic guys in the middle, and they're usually off the ball, so you can't press them. Like that position doesn't get enough recognition by far, and I will keep pounding that drum and whenever I get a chance.
I'm right with you on that one.
So we've got 2 areas left to talk through. We've worked our way up towards the top of the roster, and we could praise Taron Johnson forever, but we'll move on to 2. So 1, we'll save the ultimate praise for the end. The Here to Help segment today with William Mattar Law Offices. We love the guys over there. Hurt in a car, call William Mattar, 844-444-4444. Who do you think is here to help? We know that today our man Anthony Prohaska was killing it with coverage through the of what was going on and talking about it. He said he thought it was about 55-45 Trey White versus Max Hairston. I love it that they're making the rookie earn the reps. I think most people, I'll be honest, I think most fans assume it's a formality that Max Hairston will be the starter week 1. Where do you put it at what sounded like an encouraging day for Trey White?
I think it falls in 1 or 2 buckets, and I'm not trying to play Switzerland here, but this is truly how I feel. On one hand, I've been in rooms with players who have recovered from ACLs and Achilles, and even though the doctor cleared them from the 9 to 12 month mark, they just psychologically weren't the same until they got to like 18 months, 24 months out. Especially my friends who play DB with me, because DB is such a psychological position as it is. I don't need to be worrying about how my knee feels while I got 4-3 running me in the face. I don't need to worry about how my knee feels when A.J. Dillon is running off that C gap. So the further you get removed, you get more comfortable in your new normal because you won't ever be the same, but you get more confident in the new body. So the hopeful side is that Trey White gets back to that.
Imagine coming off of them back-to-back too.
Exactly.
Back-to-back injuries like that.
So you really are struggling with the confidence thing. But then on the flip side, you can say, well, he's getting closer to that 30 cliff, which comes for everybody. And then he may just never recover from those injuries, which are valid as well. He did improve from his time in LA to Baltimore, which I think is encouraging.
Yep.
It's just he was in a different role because he was still the dime corner in that situation. The 3 starting corners for the Ravens were Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, and Brandon Stevens. He came in as the 4th guy. So his reps and what he's asked is the total is not as high as opposed to a day 1, week 1 starter here in Buffalo, where he will be asked to play 80% of the snaps probably. So I think that they're going to give Max Hairston they're going to give him the entire runway to get this job, and at the latest is midseason, because I do think he offers something that no one else on this roster has. But I would not be surprised if the vet holds him off just for playbook reasons, more familiar with the system. And he may have lost 10-15% of his skills below the waist, but Trey White was always a smart football player. That didn't go anywhere.
Well, as well as anyone too, like one, he was always technically sound. And there's a lot of, we talked about this as Micah Hyde aged out of his position, even Jordan Poyer, when you were technically sound and
Rasul Douglas last year.
Yeah, the processing can make up for the lacking of athleticism, especially at the NFL level. Film study, knowing what your opponent's going to do. And we see this with young guys all the time. Dorian Williams, super athletic, super fast, but the lack of processing is what gets him in trouble. And I think early on, Sean McDermott sort of alluded to it. These young guys early on are going to make some of those mistakes. Maxwell Hairston is going to jump some balls that he shouldn't, make some mistakes that he shouldn't, that Trey did early on in his career. And Trey's not going to do that anymore. And I think that you look at, the resume that Sean McDermott's put together. I know people say he doesn't play rookies. He does. But also coaches want to go into battle with guys they've been into battle with before. And I think that might give Trey the ability to hold at an arm's length if the athleticism's back to some 60, 65%, but he's got this added veteran processing in a scheme that we know he fits, that he's comfortable in. I think all those things line up for him to just keep enough. But like you said, that the high side, the high ceiling of Hairston might be too much to overcome at some point throughout the season. Obviously, guys are going to get dinged up as the season goes, but I think there's a lot of encouraging things going Trey's way right now heading into the season.
I will say this about Max Hairston as well. Playing in a system like Kentucky where it was a ton of off coverage, a ton of zone coverage, don't get it twisted. The NFL is still a whole different beast. Yeah. But it is much easier to learn to play cornerback when you've already done it for 4 years, when you're looking at the quarterback every single snap. And I'm not trying to compare everything to Kyron Elam, but when you play 70% man coverage in college and you got your back to the quarterback every single play, it's totally different world when you have to switch things now. And now I'm looking at the quarterback. So that learning curve will be a little bit easier for him. But I mean, respectfully to all my fellow content creators out there, all reporters, the Max Hairston, Trey White thing to me isn't going to be a real thing until they put pads on and they thump it a little bit, because everybody look good in pajamas until we start playing real football.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Trey, one of the things that normally a veteran would have over a rookie would be in the run game and tackling, but it's never been Trey's favorite part of the game. So
I'm not sure that's Hairston's favorite part of the game either.
It's also not Hairston's favorite part of the game, but I don't think that there's a huge advantage for one versus the other.
In here to help, I know we kind of joked around offline a little bit when I coughed and said Dorian Strong should maybe be in this. I know that he didn't get those first team reps today, but to me, in seeing the tape that he put on, and again, not a ton of what you just said, the off coverage stuff in college, he did play more man, but he showed me the skills to be able to do that. You saw him in Christian Benford's hip pocket here, and like you said, at camp and stuff, but he does have that physical makeup where I do think as camp goes on, like even though it's only 2.5 weeks, it's a long 2.5 weeks of camp, and they go back to one Bills drive beyond that. There's a long time between now and when the start of the season is. Can he clip his way up that depth chart and make a push, especially when pads come on and physicality becomes a factor?
I fully believe that he's going to be the Bills' fourth cornerback by the time we get to week one. And so do what you must with that information in terms of where does that leave Dane Jackson and Jamarcus Ingram. But I just really think that they see his skill set and what he brings to the table, and they're like, yeah, we can mold this into a guy we can be. They know what you get with Dane Jackson. I think he's a serviceable player in this National Football League, that when you put him out there, you're not scared.
He's a good scheme fit for Buffalo.
He's not going to blow the coverage. He's not going to blow the call. We know what he's going to be. He's going to be in the right place.
Yeah.
But I think Dorian Strong can give you a little bit more. I'm not calling my man Christian Benford. Christian Benford's should have an AP next to his name, but he's not him. But I think he can. If you told me,
could be a poor man's Christian Benford.
If you told me he could have an 8-year career, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that.
Well, and I mean, you look at, so one, I don't want to call it a conspiracy theory or anything like that, but I will say, I think the team, the scouting group, the position coach who's no longer here, who hated the previous first round pick, which is never helpful. They learned some lessons on how to make your investment pay off better. Because I will say, although I think Kyron Elam owns the vast majority of the reason he didn't work out, the Bills own some of that too. And I think that they learned from that and are going to make a more vested interest in ensuring that they put him in every possible position to succeed. I think you framed it really well at the beginning. So although I don't think anything's out of the question of Trey White winning that job, Dorian Strong beating both of them out, I think they are going to make a better effort to put Max Hairston in a better position than they did Kyrie Elam.
I mean, listen, when you have a player with his skill set, and I'll say this, I wasn't incredibly high on Max Hairston coming out of the draft, partly because of the fact that I thought with his athletic frame, I guess you can say, I didn't think they'd be interested in him. But I'll say he offers something in terms of speed, getting in and out of breaks, and ball skills that no one else on the roster have. So it's so hard to tell a coach to, like, hey, if you don't all the way trust a guy, still put him out there. But he offers the type of margin for error where it's like, hey, Sean, I know you might be scared that in this exotic blitz that he might not be in the deep third if they motion to trips. But Lord have mercy, Sean, that kid can fly. You got to give me a chance. You know what I'm trying to say here? So yeah. I think this might be a situation where the coaches go with the first round. I like Trey White. I'm just saying that he offers something that no one else on the roster has.
Well, we saw it when Rasul was beat last year. He was beat. Like there was no catch up anymore. Like he had to have the first read right. He had to have the footwork right. We even knew Trey White at his best as his elite. He was a very good athlete. He was there because of his mind, because of his footwork, because of his technique, and being a very good athlete, not an elite athlete. Now having a guy that, like you said, brings something that we don't have anywhere else on the roster. I believe they are going to try to put him in a better position than what we've seen previously.
I want to transition this into Christian Benford conversation now.
Just praise him the rest of the
show. I want to kind of stay on cornerback too, though, with Christian Benford, because when we saw Trey White at his prime here in Buffalo, the problem with cornerback two wasn't always the quality of the play. It was teams overly targeted that spot, because where else were you going to put the ball? Trey wasn't getting looks. I think Christian Benford has gotten himself into that, where that side of the field won't be targeted and won't be gone after as much. Obviously, you don't have the safety play behind them like Poyer and Hyde were behind Trey White, but you still have Taron Johnson in there. You still have the linebackers who are good at coverage. So because of how good Christian Benford is, before we go into praising Benford, that corner too, like that's my cause for concern for whether it's Trey or whether it's Hairston, is going to get a lot of work early on. How is it playing with such an elite corner opposite you, knowing going in every week that even if you're a really good corner, they're going to go after you because that's the most open spot?
I've actually spoken with Will Blackman, the longtime NFL vet, about this. He played with Charles Woodson in Green Bay.
One of my favorite pound for pound NFL player of all time, by the way.
Shout out to him. And I asked him about that exact question. Like, what is it like weekly when Christian Benford's not a Hall of Famer, but when you have a player like that, and so Brady, Manning, Breeze, Rodgers, they don't want to be on the mixtape. They want to check out the 25-year-old. They want to test his jaw and see what he's actually like. And he goes, you got to just be built different up here. He said, it's all up here because you're going to get beat. You're going to get 7, 8 targets. You're going to give up a few, but just make sure that you keep everything in front of you and make sure that you're not blowing assignments. And I think that's the main thing. Make sure you don't have any MAs and that you tackle everything. And then after a while, if the ball's not going over your head, they won't start picking on you like with the red laser treatment. That's the thing I like to say. When we're in the meeting room and the coach got the red laser and he's circling you, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good. So hopefully after a while, you start bringing guys down to the ground, that red laser treatment goes away.
Yeah, and I think, Benford went through so much of that to now put himself into that position of like, oh, this isn't easy picking. This isn't.
He's not a red laser guy.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I mean, again, when it's a 6th round pick from Villanova, this is the guy that we should be going after. And then all of a sudden it's like, maybe it's not. And now, obviously, again, no pads. Red zone favors the condensed field favors the defense, but nobody could even get a hand on the ball on the ones that were targeted to him. Like, that's the kind of stuff that gets you excited to see that. I love seeing a little bit of the drum beat from outside our bubble. Like, obviously everybody in our world knows how good he is, but some of that shock of like how many informed people weren't even familiar with him to that point. And now seeing other people talk about like, oh, now it's finally going to be the all-pro season, or hey, Hard Knocks is going to be, they're going to find out who Christian Benford is. And I'm a little bit excited for that because, again, we already got him for the money. Like, it's shocking when it's like, oh, a $69 million contract already feels like a significant discount, but we already got him locked in. So you get all the praise now. Like, we already got the contract locked in. Now give him all the love.
When he was a rookie and I sat down with Christian Benford and talked about his story and his upbringing from Baltimore, I checked everyone to go just like find out how he grew up, man. It molded him into the person that he is today. But the one thing that I learned early on, dude's built different upstairs. Like, he has a certain type of aura. I know the kids love that word these days. The swagger, he never feels like anything's too big for him. Like today talking to Max Hairston and TJ Sanders, this is not a negative, but they kept saying like, oh my gosh, I was so giddy first day of school, like jitters, all that good jazz. I vividly remember asking Christian Benford, hey, you're about to start this week. What is it like? He go, hey man, it's just football. Like, I'm just out here doing my job. When you wired like that and you have that type of confidence, especially at that position where you're on an island for half of the game, it's contagious and it affects everyone else on the defense as well. And when you watch him play, he's just such a confident player. You look at his feet. He's always in a court. It never feels like he's stepping out of his frame. I love it. He's not lying. We actually did talk about The Wire. I did not put that on TV, though, because I didn't want my viewers to get lost about what The Wire was.
That's a worthwhile rabbit hole. For anybody who doesn't know, that's a worthwhile thing to learn.
Yeah, but he's just an awesome player. He's physically gifted. I know the 47 doesn't help him out in terms of the optics of that, but he's physically gifted. But upstairs, his confidence is something that when you talk to him for just 20 seconds, you're like, oh, yeah, buddy truly thinks that he's the best dude on the planet. He ain't going to tell you outright, but he don't fear nobody.
Yeah, I love it.
It's exciting.
One of the most exciting things about him is we talked about Trey White in his prime didn't have the physicality aspect to his game. And it's such a big part of corner, especially in this defense where they are a little bit smaller running nickel a majority of the time, is they put so much emphasis on the run game and the run support. I think that's, we see the big plays, we see the interceptions, we see the punch outs, we see the lack of receptions and the numbers associated to throwing at Benford. And obviously that's the biggest part, right? NFL is a passing game. You got to stop a quarterback. We talk about it all the time. You got to limit quarterbacks EPA, but more and more it's becoming a 12 personnel run heavy game, and they're going after these smaller defenses. So have a guy like him that's wired, because we don't know whether it's going to be Hairston or Trey White on the other side. You're probably not going to get the run support physicality. Even if they try, it's not going to be the same. But that's, to me, is some of the most impressive aspect of his game. And even we saw it like when they did that double blitz with him in the Detroit Lions game, like just his ability to come up and make contact and not be scared of contact is something you don't always see at the cornerback position. I think, to your point, when you're talking about that mentality that he has, that's exactly where I went, was that run game, his ability to come up and make tackles.
I'll say this: Boston College is a Big 12, 13 personnel team. And the entire game, they had these condensed formations and literally just had the receivers crack block. And every time I came up, I was like, damn, AJ Dillon, like 250. I'm not doing nothing with that.
I don't want any of that.
Meanwhile, like week 2, week 3, Benford's rookie year, I know y'all remember when he took down Derrick Henry in the open field. And that's when I realized I wasn't going to play in the National Football League, because he doing stuff like that. And the whole time I saw Derrick Henry in the open field, I'm like, I hope he don't hurt him.
Yeah, that's somebody else's job.
Yeah, you feel me? So shout out to him. I do want to touch on this with Benford, and I think this is a great discussion to have with you guys. I think the next step in the progression for this defense is weaponizing him in a way that doesn't just make him the cog in the machine. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying he needs to follow wide receiver ones all over the field. The days of that are 2010 and before. But I do think, and got to have his situations where it's 2 minute, third down, third and got to have it. I would like to see him on the other team's best receiver. The biggest example that I can think of was the Los Angeles Rams game. They come out of the 2 minute. It's 3rd and 5. The jig is up. The Bills are literally playing press man across the board. Christian Benford is guarding Kyron Williams. Jamarcus Ingram is guarding Puka Nacua. Touchdown. I understand when you don't want to give up the tail in the disguise, so that's why you don't have your corners travel around. I get that, and it makes a ton of sense to me. But the jig is up when Jamarcus Ingram is lining up against a top 5 receiver in the league, So that's the next step that I would like to see this defense take, is to weaponize him. And listen, maybe the Bills don't feel as if that he's a guy that could travel. That may be the case, and that may be a situation where they want Max Hairston to develop into that role. But I think that Christian Benford is good enough to at least give him the opportunity to do that. Not all game. Got to have his situations 4 or 5 times a game. I would love to see 47, Hey, we're coming out of the huddle. Where's 1 from Cincinnati? Okay, where's 17 from LA? I think that's the next step that will really help them out in the playoffs as well.
Yeah. Need that tool in your tool belt. You just need the option to be able to do that.
I would also like to see some changes a little bit. And like you saw Belichick do this a lot, where we know the Bills want to be a too high safety team. They want to be, everyone loves to call it soft zone coverage. They want to be a zone coverage team. The NFL is still a zone coverage. But I would like to see, I think he's a good enough player where it's man on one side, zone everywhere else, where he can sort of dictate a side of the field himself. And then you can put coverage otherwhere and other places. And I think that type of stuff that Belichick used to do, and we've seen other coaches do it. Even Sean McDermott did a little with Trey when he was at his peak. That throws off quarterbacks, and we talk about it all the time. We're just trying to limit the other quarterbacks' EPA, and you just got to buy a second. I think stuff like that, especially in the Bills scheme where it has gotten a little vanilla over the years here, and teams kind of know on 3rd and long, the Bills are going to be in cover 3, or they're going to be in quarters or something like that, and they're going to run their beaters and beat the Bills in cover 3. Having that sort of something in your back pocket, whether it's like you said, following a receiver or having a different look to and using Benford and weaponizing him that way, can maybe get by the pass rush that we haven't talked about enough here this year. Just that little bit of time to finally create some of those 3rd down plays.
We're saying the same thing here. 4 or 5 times a game, just throw a little curveball. The Bills, I love the structure of the defense and all that good jazz, but just a couple more curveballs.
You got to wrinkle it.
Exactly, because in the postseason, it's not like they're getting blown off the field. It's 4 or 5 plays a game that can really change everything.
Yeah.
All right, Carl, you've been more than generous with your time. I know you said you have something exciting coming tomorrow. Where can folks see you, and what else you got coming up?
Yeah, man, if you're living in the Western New York area, that's Rochester, Buffalo, I think some other areas in New York State. First episode of Bills Kickoff Live, we rebranded to Bills Kickoff Live. It originally used to be Buffalo Kickoff Live, BKL. Half-hour show, 7 o'clock, CBS station. So CBS channel 8 in Rochester, 4 in Buffalo. We're just gonna talk ball, man, and half an hour. Come join us. But I'll just say I really appreciate y'all channel, man. I'll be showing y'all love. Y'all know it's number love from my direction, man. I love everything that y'all got going on.
No, we appreciate it, man. It's great to see you, and hope everything goes great with the show tomorrow.
And real quick, go Cavs, go Qs, and go Buckeyes.
Oh no, go blue.
All right. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you, man. All right. It's awesome to be able to talk with Carl and to be able to have, his insight from being at camp and playing corner at a high level. We knew he was the right guy to have on the show here tonight. I'm excited, man. This is a really exciting group. It's the most athletic group we've had in a while. We've had a lot of veteran depth over the years. I'm really excited about the young depth pushing guys. We're like, hey, there's going to be multiple of, matter of fact, there's a chance that none of Cam Lewis, Dane Jackson, or Jamarcus Ingram, that none of them make the roster. And that's wild that we're going to have trouble getting everyone onto the practice squad. So I think it's most likely one of those 3 make it, but you could paint a picture where none of the 3 end up making it. So I think it's really crazy to have that kind of capability. I'd love to see Trey stay healthy enough where he can be a really nice luxury as a CB3. I'd love to see Dorian Strong make a push. Obviously, I think our best case scenario is Max Hairston harnesses the athletic gifts and gives us a really athletic piece opposite Christian Benford. But having Christian Benford and Taron Johnson locked in at 2 of the spots, and then 3 or 4 legit options at the one other spot is a really nice place to be.
Yeah, I think the battle's going to ramp up here as the weeks go on, as we drift into camp. And I'm excited to see sort of how it shakes out. I can't wait till pads come on, because then we're going to see some of that, what does it look like physicality when it's 11 on 11 and these guys' jobs are really starting to get on the line. And how does a guy like Trey White hold up? We saw it's easy, like they said, in shorts and sort of pajamas and running against air and not being able to have that physicality. We saw him ramp up as the year went on last year. What's he look like against a bigger guy. We know he struggled with that when he was here. Can he go up against the Keon Coleman? How does he hang with the Josh Palmer type of thing? Can he hang with the shiftier guys like an Elijah Moore on the outside? I think the Bills have enough at wide receiver to test these guys too. They're going up against a top flight offense when they're going up against the ones. And so I think it's going to be an iron sharpens iron type of battle. And whether it's Trey, whether it's Hairston or a dark horse that comes out of this, I think that they'll be in a good spot because of that iron sharpens iron. And the nice thing is we're going to get to see all of it play out on Hard Knocks and some more detail than we would normally get out of a battle like this.
Yeah. And I will say there's not a ton of starting positions in competition on this roster. So some of those spots, like CB2 is by far the highest profile position that's available. I think, it seems like we'll talk next week about whether the safety starting spot is up for grabs or is more aligned and ready. We'll see where that goes. Maybe the tackle opposite at Oliver, maybe. But I think for the most part, and then maybe who gets the most snaps at the top 3 wide receivers. But I think I could probably write down the starting lineup in pen right now and have a pretty good shot at who's going to be there for each one. So having a spot like this at a prominent position is a serious one to then be able to watch. So I think this is going to be the most exciting one to track through camp and preseason.
Yeah, and it's not like years past where it's up in the air and nobody feels good about it. Like we just said, like even if Trey loses out, having that insurance of if it goes off the rails for Hairston early or he gets picked on in that CB2 role, you can pump the brakes for him for a little bit and have him take a seat. And you have a veteran that has been there and hopefully 18 months, whatever, removed from injury, recovering. So it's a much better spot than they've been in the past, where we've seen cornerback 2 battles the last 8 years consistently in camp. But this one feels like there's more optimism to it.
100%. Well, heck, even look at a guy like Dane Jackson, where I don't think anyone's looking for him to play. But the fact that we're probably going to have a guy that was signed to a pretty legitimate contract previously, who's going to be our breaking case of emergency practice squad guy, that's a really nice position to be in. So that all those things in between, and that, hey, there's also a non-zero dart throw of a 6th round pick that's a really nice player who could turn into something as well. So having all those options is a great position, and that we already saw a couple nice, exactly what Carl said, some of those crazy athletic points where some low points for Max Hairston, but the high points are getting his hands on a football, which is something that is very exciting for this team.
For sure.
All right, man. That's it. We've only got one more position preview before we simply get into read and react mode of all the things in camp and preseason. So it's been a great journey with everybody. Again, I'll remind everyone, if you have friends or family in your life that are looking to get themselves kind of caught up on all the things going on with this team, this is as close as Aaron and I get to kind of evergreen content. You can go through these position previews, get yourself up to speed on everything going on with this roster, all the different things that are happening here, and really, be able to chime in at the water cooler or at the cookout or talking with the neighbors, really know what's going on. So let other people know if that's the best compliment you can pay to us is to give us a like or a review, let somebody else know, refer them to us, let them know to come and check out what we have going on at Cover One. That's the best way to share. And if you want to contribute directly, you could become a Cover One Pass member. Join us in the Discord channel. If you're not sure who to follow on social media, the Discord channel literally finds every clip, every video, every rep, and shares it. You can just sit there in the Discord channel. I've had a couple of people commented that, hey, I'm going to stop going to Twitter because you guys are sharing all the important stuff here and just going through it as it came up. So come on over, support us over there. Support us at cover1.net/1pass. Aaron, what are you excited for next week?
I am excited I'm going on vacation after our show next week, so I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for Hard Knocks to get started here first week in August. Like you said, I've been a Hard Knocks fan my whole life, so having the Bills on it, I'm excited and nervous at the same time of just everything go smooth, everything be good. I don't
Nobody do anything embarrassing.
Almost be the most
funny
boring.
Is fine. Funny and silly is fine.
Absolutely. And they definitely have the person. Actually, another great reason to have Trey White back in the fold is he'll be fantastic on Hard Knocks. But yeah, just don't do anything embarrassing. Be boring, even if you have to. Because even boring Bills content, I will just gush it all up.
I'm going to love every second of it no matter what. I would love if they don't want to come back to the Bills. forgettably boring. Like that's fine. That's
Yeah, totally. But I'm excited for that. The weather's very hot, but I'm excited here for the end of summer. I got some golf tournaments coming up and stuff like that. So this whole summer is going to blow by here at the end of it, and then it's going to be football season before we know it. This whole next month is going to just blow right by, and I can't wait for it. But the good news, Greg, I heard people asking for an injury update for you. You might be coming off the pup here soon, or at least trending in the right direction. We have some positive, cautiously optimistic news, right?
I was released to weight bearing activity yesterday. I had my first physical therapy appointment today. I walked around without a brace or walking boot on. Had people pulling on me with resistance bands and whatnot. I joked beforehand, like I got to take a real shower without a bag over my foot for the first time in 8 weeks. It was wonderful. Good progress. A lot of pain, a lot of soreness. I'm going to wake up sore tomorrow, but in the best way because things are going the right direction. So the good news is everyone, both the doctor, the surgeon, and the physical therapist have been very, very pleased with the progress and the healing, and that I am on full pace for a 100% recovery. So now I got to put in the work, and as our friend Kyle Trimble warned me, that PT actually stands for physical terrorist. And I learned that the hard way today. My first physical therapy session was pretty grueling, but I'm looking forward to it. And it's gonna get me back on the right path.
Yes, to never running again.
Yeah, correct. Right. Never ever ran. TP is spot on here to remember that cardio is one of the many tools of the devil. It's spot on. That is actually 100% accurate. Yep. I will never be Nick here. Shocked me. Don't let this distract you from the fact that Carl Jones ran a 4.29 laser timed 40. I could run a 4.29 laser timed 40-foot dash, but I will not be doing any running at any time in the future.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, strongly against. So on behalf of everyone here at Cover One, our awesome sponsors over Southern Tier Brewing Company, I won't lie, I'm really excited. They just did a release of a apple crumble brown ale that I was like, I'd like to make sure that our fans see that. So if you'd like me to do some nice product placement, I would be happy to do that on the show.
I will say, I was at a scramble up at Niagara Frontier last week, and we got some Southern Tier transfusions. And I meant to take a picture and be a good sponsor-y and tweet it out and stuff, but they were really delicious and they went down easy, and I totally forgot to take pictures and post them. But I wouldn't mind if they wanted me to showcase those for everyone.
Hey, you're just trying to be a good, that's what
I just want to make sure they're getting their
brand representative does.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. We appreciate it. Our friends over at William & Tara Law Offices, always great to us, and our fantastic producer, Chris Kepner. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn, and I'm Greg Tompsett, and we are out.
Go Bills.